We are an island nation, drawn to the seas for centuries. It's given us food and it's given us adventure, yet we haven't even scratched the surface. With the oceans covering 2/3 of the world's surface, there's so much more for us to find out. In fact, we know more about our own solar system than we do our own oceans, and yet time is running out. Our oceans now face so many threats, from plastic pollution to acidification. Zoos and aquariums have never been so important. And with thousands of zoos and aquariums worldwide, it's never been easier to visit them and see the wonders of our oceans and waterways up close. Many zoos and aquariums also have amazing experiences that allow you to get up close with the animals. They're unique to that aquarium or zoo, and often a lot more personal. This helps zoos and aquariums achieve their main goal of allowing the public to fall in love with the animals in their care. In turn, helping the public learn why these animals are so special and need our protection. This also allows them to achieve their second goal, education. And by educating people, we can offer a future for our oceans. While many still see zoos and aquariums as a form of entertainment and don't really care for the inhabitants, those that work within the industry form incredible bonds with the animals in their care, making many sacrifices to ensure that this animal has the best quality of life and that the species has a future. For many years now, I've been fascinated by the sea and all of its inhabitants. Learning to scuba dive 4 years ago gave me the opportunity to get up closer with the smallest of fish and the biggest of sharks. It allowed me to go that step further than snorkeling. So join me, Seth Parrott, wildlife videographer and aquarist, on my journey into the deep blue. Unfortunately, when most people hear the word shark, they think of this, the famous great white shark, the star of Jaws and many other shark movies. Movies like this have given sharks a terrible reputation. Most people associate waters like these with sharks, big man-eaters. They're out there to get them. But most of the time this is not true. Great whites also love to hunt dolphins, such as these Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins playing in the lovely shallow waters where they're safe from their predators like sharks. Along with dolphins, they also enjoy a diet of varied cetaceans, including large whale carcasses, so they actually help clean up our oceans and prevent them from being littered in dead carcasses. Another popular food choice of the infamous great white is seals and sea lions, and in fact it baffles scientists that we don't have great whites here in the UK. We have ideal water temperatures and the largest seal populations anywhere on the planet, with around 40% of the world's grey seals. But not only are our waters home to large grey seal populations, as seen in these images, we also have amazing harbour seal populations, so there's plenty of food for the great whites. With many unofficial sightings and rumours of great whites in the UK, hopefully it's not long until scenes like this are actually popular here in the UK and great whites are actually here in our waters. Like its cousin the great white shark, the black-tipped reef shark constantly has to keep swimming to stay alive. They have to do this in order to keep water moving over their gills, and this in turn allows them to breathe. With their highly decorative fins though, unfortunately they're very popular in the shark fin soup trade. And unfortunately this has led them to become near threatened in the wild. So because of this, aquariums play a huge role in keeping a sustainable population in captivity. Unlike other fish, sharks don't have a swim bladder. This would normally allow a fish to stay afloat and prevent it from sinking to the seabed. So in order to do this, sharks have come up with another method. Their caudal fin, also known as their tail fin, is different sizes on the upper and lower part, with the upper being a lot larger than the lower portion. This creates an upthrust that keeps the shark buoyant. This 1.6 metre shark prefers the warmer waters of the Indo-Pacific, especially around the shallow waters of the coral reefs. It's here that their agile bodies allow them to navigate through the rocks and achieve short bursts of speeds in order to catch the weak and the wounded fish. This helps to maintain a healthy fish stock and also allows them to prey on their favourite food, small stingrays, sharks, and their absolute favourite, a small shiny fish known as a lookdown. Now lookdowns get their name because of their facial expression, literally by the fact of them looking so grumpy all the time. Unannounced to many, rays actually make up the large majority of the 500 plus known shark species to science. Although the outside doesn't look like a shark, on the inside rays function in pretty much the same way. And actually, they differ in fewer ways than they are similar. The main way you can tell a ray apart from a shark is by looking at the gill placement. Rays have their gills on the underside of their body, so when they're resting on the seabed you can't see them. But sharks have their gills on the side of their head, which means you can always see them. But both animals do have 5 pairs of gills. Rays are then further divided into 3 classes: skates and rays, and then also stingrays. And the differences here are skates and rays have a tail more similar to that of a shark, as you can see with the shovel-nosed rays in the few clips following. And stingrays have a long, slim tail with a barb from 3/4 to halfway along the tail. Although stingrays do have a venomous barb, the toxin is not potent enough to be lethal to humans. Instead, it's designed to cause a stinging sensation in order to deter predators. Most species of rays are developed for hiding on the seabed, scavenging through the sand for small crustaceans and leftover scraps. However, a few species have developed mid-water swimming abilities and can be seen swimming much higher in the water column. Here we have the smooth ray, the largest ocean stingray, with females reaching 350 kilos, however males only reach 150 kilos. This is purely because during mating, if the male was larger than the female, he would end up injuring her. Some of the most popular rays in captivity include the beautiful looking blue-spotted ribbon-tail ray, and also the Mylobatis genus of rays, which includes the bat ray and also eagle rays. Bat rays and eagle rays are predominantly mid-water swimmers, although they do like to feed off the seabed. Bat rays tend to range from 1.2 metres in wingspan to 1.85 metres, while eagle rays are slightly larger, ranging from 1.5 metres to 2 metres in wingspan. During my time at Irukandji Shark and Ray Encounters, I got to know an individual Australian eagle ray very well. Her name was Bendy, and Bendy has an unfortunate story. Bendy is a rescue animal, and her story has left irreparable damage to her. She was not born with a crooked tail, because it's not a birth defect. Instead, she was born a perfectly healthy Australian eagle ray, but a few years ago, she got herself caught in a fisherman's net. She was so lucky not to drown, but she soon faced a fate far worse. The unnamed fisherman believed stingrays to be evil, so whenever he caught a stingray, he would use brute force to pull off the tail and then return the animal to the sea, believing it could no longer harm anyone. Now, a stingray cannot swim or defend itself without a tail, so will likely die a slow and painful death. This was not Bendy's fate. Lucky for her, Mr. Ryan Perea, owner of Irukandji Shark and Ray Encounters, saw this man attempting to pull off Bendy's tail. He rescued Bendy and took it back to his aquarium, where she has been rehabilitated, and whilst I was there at Irukandji, I was fortunate enough to get to work with her, doing what we call in the industry enrichment with her. This just reinforced her behaviours with some food treats and other rewards like petting her, which is very stimulating for the sharks and rays. In this enrichment session, I'm teaching Bendy to perform a high five, so every time she comes by, she has to place her wing on my hand before she's rewarded with the food. If she doesn't want to perform the behaviours that day though, we will still feed her at the end of the day so that she's not missing out on any food or being neglected. While teaching these forms of behaviours is quite amusing for customers, it also provides staff with a means of performing a health check. If Bendy is to get an injury to her wing, it's a lot easier to now get her to present her wing for us to check it out, rather than having to catch her and remove her from the tank before we can check her wing. Unfortunately, in recent years, due to the death of wildlife presenter Steve Irwin, stingrays have received a lot of bad publicity. Most stingray attacks are not fatal and are only caused by people standing on the stingrays at the beach. Hence, most wounds are to the foot or to the lower leg. Now, if you are stung by a stingray, medical advice is to put your limb in as warmer water as you can bear, which is usually around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. After this, do not attempt to remove the barb yourself. Please head to a medical facility and have a doctor surgically remove the barb. A stingray's barb is made out of keratin and continues to grow throughout their life. Around every 3 to 6 months, they lose their barb and regrow a new one. Now, in some aquariums they do choose to trim this barb. However, other aquariums do see this as harmful to the animal, as it's a bit like pulling out your fingernail. So many aquariums, such as Skegness Aquarium, choose to leave in the barb, and even with public divers going in the tank frequently, they have never had an injury caused by one of their stingrays. Bat rays are very similar looking to manta rays, but shouldn't be confused. Now, while manta rays do still have that skinny tail, they don't actually have a barb, so aren't actually considered a stingray, unlike the bat ray, which does have a barb. The barb on the bat ray is around 5 centimeters long and isn't used for hunting. Instead, it's used to protect itself from its predator, which in most cases is larger sharks. Despite being listed as vulnerable in the wild, zebra sharks are a popular shark in captivity. They're a medium-sized shark that do well in small tanks and very large tanks, reaching around 5 to 6 feet at maturity. Despite looking more like a leopard than a zebra, the zebra shark is not to be confused with the leopard shark, which is found off the American coast. Instead, the zebra shark is found off the coast in the Indo-Pacific region. Zebra sharks belong to a class of shark called benthic sharks. These sharks have an organ called a spiracle, which is situated just behind the eye. This organ allows them to pump water over the gills, meaning they can sit on the seabed like rays without moving, like sharks like the blacktip. By pumping water over their gills, they get to sleep sat on the seabed. Zebra sharks aren't born covered in these spots. In fact, they're born stripy, which is where they get the name zebra from. When they hatch from their eggs, zebra sharks are incredibly small, so by having a striped appearance, they resemble the banded sea snake. A snake so poisonous, it can kill any animal within 5 minutes. If you look like this snake, larger predators aren't going to want to take a chance and are going to leave the shark pup alone, not wanting to become a meal themselves. Breeding programs like Studbuck in Europe are going to ensure that we have a zebra shark population for years to come. This scheme allows aquariums to share males and females, allowing them to breed and produce many offspring so that we don't have to take zebra shark pups out the wild for public displays, and eventually one day hopefully we'll be able to release some of the pups back into the wild. By far the most popular shark in the aquarium industry is the cat shark family, like the brown-banded bamboo cat shark or the Hasselt's cat sharks. This is a small species of shark, with most individuals only ever reaching a maximum of 1 metre, making them great for most tank sizes. Cat sharks get their name from the barbels in front of their mouth that they use for tasting the water and help in finding their prey in water too murky to see. Most cat sharks, like this coral cat shark here, prefer to hunt during the night or during dawn and dusk when the light is a lot dimmer. The cat shark's small, thin and flexible body also makes it great at hiding in amongst the rocks. Cat sharks aren't only just popular in captivity, but are also common in oceans worldwide. In fact, they can be found in every sea and ocean. We even have them here in the UK, with animals such as the small spotted cat shark, or more commonly known as the dogfish. It's actually a true species of cat shark. In aquariums, enrichment devices like this modified hamster ball are often used to stimulate natural environments and puzzles that the shark would normally have to face in order to get its meal, in order to keep the sharks happy and healthy, as well as a lot more active. As you can see, our sharks love this hamster ball, and all the other fish like picking off the leftovers. By far the most interesting cat shark is the epaulet. Epaulets are native to Australasia, where they're found on the tropical reefs of the Indo-Pacific. Now these sharks have a couple of really amazing abilities. Firstly, they get their name from that black spot on their neck. It's a pretend eye, which is used for protection. Being a small shark, they are vulnerable to much larger sharks. This spot acts as a pretend eye, so when the largest sharks swim by and see this spot, they think the shark is a lot bigger than what it actually is and leave the shark alone, not wanting to become dinner themselves. But epaulets haven't finished with their bag of tricks there. No, in fact they are the only known shark to walk on land. And they do this because during the low tide on the Great Barrier Reef, the top of the reef is left exposed, creating little rock pools. In these rock pools, small fish and crustaceans get trapped, making for an easy dinner. So the epaulet has learned by holding his breath, sucking in his gills, sending half of his brain to sleep and slowing his heart rate, he can climb onto the rocks, using his incredibly strong muscles by his fins to waddle across them and hop between rock pools. Individuals have been documented out of the water for up to an hour, but most can make 20 to 30 minutes. All over the world, aquariums are fighting to change people's opinions of sharks. In a small Australian village called Bob's Farm, located in the Port Stephens district of New South Wales, is Irukandji Shark and Ray Encounters. They're a small aquarium, but with over 200 sharks and stingrays. Their conservation methods are truly unique. By introducing people to these sharks in a close-up experience, where the public get in the tank with them and get to feed the animals, They really do get to show a different side to these animals. As part of their journey, you also learn about the problems facing sharks, like overfishing and the shark fin soup industry. And you also get to learn about our problems of plastic pollution. Here in the UK, Skegness Aquarium have a couple of experiences to help conserve our sharks. The first is their Lost Lagoon snorkel experience, which you can see the advert for now. And the second is their main dive experience, where you get to go in the main tank with their zebra shark nudge and their black tips, as well as their bat rays. What do you love about being a zookeeper?
Everything.
I love zookeeping because I get to live every day with all these amazing animals, and I get to teach everyone how special they are.
Definitely the animals. The animals bring a lot of joy to the job, and they're just so amazing. You can get to know their personalities, and like they're all different. You know?
Is being a zookeeper hard work?
It will be challenging at times. It's not the easiest job in the world, but it's lots and lots of fun and it's very rewarding.
Sometimes. Never.
It is hard, but worth it. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into looking after these gorgeous animals, but it is so worth it for sure.
Hard? Not really. I get to work with them, so like it's like working my dreams. I love it.
Why is being a zookeeper so important?
Because most people don't know how much the animals are suffering and that they need our help, and without our help and without the help of all the other people, well, we may lose
So we
them.
can care for these guys and make sure we can educate customers and everyone else on how we can protect these guys out in the wild so we can have a nice future with lots of animals.
Save the world.
Save all the animals.
Teach people about conservation and how to save our environment.
Would you recommend zookeeping as a profession?
Definitely recommend zookeeping as a job. It's extremely fulfilling. Taking part in the outside world, the ocean, the terrestrial world, and hopefully make a real big difference in the future of our planet Earth.
Yeah, best job in the world.
100%. It's the best job in the world and I would Why wouldn't you? Look at